Before luck. This is Cowboys and Eagles. We have 3 games left, EMac, because we got 2 on Monday night, but tonight just 1 game. We got the Cowboys, we got the Eagles. While you're coming in, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with EMac. You can find EMac on Twitter at EMac DFS, and this show is sponsored by Owner's Box. We will talk about Owner's Box more later on. Actually, I'm just going to tell you about it right now. You know, I don't want to get lost later in the show. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you sign up for Owner's Box using our link, you're going to get your first deposit matched up to $500 in Owner's Box. So you're going to get that as you play. It'll be a drip bonus as you play. You'll get up to $500. Whatever you put in, you will get back over time in Owner's Box, which then can be entered into contests. It's like money, except you have to convert it to dollars before you can withdraw it. You also get, when you sign up for Owner's Box, 2 $5 contest tickets, one to a Lightning lineups contest, which is like a cash game, the second to whatever $5 contest you want to play. All of that if you use our link when you sign up for Owner's Box. And of course, you always get a lot of overlay in just about every contest on Owner's Box. So great place to start playing if you haven't already started playing. You also don't have to worry about defenses. It is the main contests are super flex contests. So if you're playing the DFS style contest, it is you don't have to worry about defenses. So another bonus of playing there. Check out Owner's Box if you have not already done so. They are the sponsor of the show. We appreciate them. So show them some love. EMac, how is your Sunday going?
It's not too bad. It is. I'm doing okay here on the old Yahoo. I feel bad for the one person it looks like I'm beating on FanDuel. Otherwise, I'm going to lose 98% of my entry fees there. Which I'm kind of hoping I get kicked in the nuts with just the clean loss across the board. 0 coming back because I made some poor choices, you know, like Zach Moss, Keenan Allen, et cetera, et cetera.
It's hard to know what would have happened if Justin Herbert hadn't gotten hurt 2 weeks in a row. I just noticed this on Twitter. 2 weeks in a row. I have, at the end of the tournament strategy show, Greg and I gave our top stacks of the week, and I try to not play the most obvious one. I try to go a little bit off the board. Last week I picked Kenny Pickett, which I don't usually pick Kenny Pickett. I'm not a huge believer, but they were playing Arizona, so I picked Kenny Pickett. Of course, gets hurt at like the 1 yard line and it's out for the game, knocked out for the game in the first quarter. This week, Justin Herbert gets hurt in the first half. Not going so great for me lately in the DFS streets. And yeah, I am not returning much today on my entries. Early on, I thought like the most of my quarterbacks that I was playing were from the late afternoon games. So I thought it was promising that nobody was going off early. And then of course, late Lamar goes completely off. Brock Purdy, you know, is having a pretty good game in the afternoon. I don't know, just hasn't quite worked out the way that I had hoped it would. Browning, I guess, did pretty well also. Browning was, you know, kind of chalky, a guy that I didn't play a lot of. So not my day so far for DFS. Hopefully we can turn it around tonight here for Sunday Night Football, EMac. And of course, I don't know if we have any best ballers in chat, but this is, of course, the final week of the regular season for most best ball content. Obviously not on drafters where it goes through week 17, but for contests that have playoffs, this is the final week. Also applies to most season-long leagues that I'm in. So a lot to keep track of this week. Pretty interesting stuff. All right. I suppose we should talk about the game that's coming up. And this is a fun one. I mean, Cowboys, Eagles, that's a fun Sunday Night Football game. We can definitely look forward to this one. Let's start with the quarterbacks. EMac, are you playing Dak and Hurts in all of your lineups? Are you playing less than 100% of either of these quarterbacks, and where are you playing them?
So a mix of everything. I will be playing quite a few of these. I'm not going to set any rules to force them in, but I suspect they're each going to be in on at least 70% of my rosters, either as the multiplier. I'm just playing DraftKings tonight, or as a flex option. I decided for Dak, if he's the captain, I want 2 pass catchers with him. If he's in the flex, I want 1. That's something I don't think is restricted tonight. However, with Hurts, I did not require 1 when he's in the flex, just because he can score on his own.
Yep.
And this is unlike the quarterbacks, you know, that need to be carried there by their receivers. Hurts is like the exact opposite of that. This week he was our QB1. No surprise there. He was QB1 on most projection sites for the full week here. So the only comments I have on him is he is producing a career low 35.8 rushing yards per game. but he is still getting 10.1 carries per game. And then he's, obviously he's still getting it done at the goal line. So that's the most important part, but he's down. He was regularly cruising past 50 each of the last 2 years. He's not doing that as much this year. And his passing is a little bit worse than what it was last year, but nothing horrible by any stretch. Dak, on the other side, is having an MVP caliber season. Brock Purdy is in the lead. Dak is second, and Hurts is third. Checking that out on Odds Shopper, our sister site. Okay. It's fun to keep track of those things. There are 2 position players in the top 8. Do you want to guess at them?
Tyreek Hill for sure.
Correct.
Position player outside of Tyreek Hill who's in the running for MVP.
Top 8, so they're a little farther back.
Yeah. I think I would still have to guess McCaffrey.
Dynamite.
Okay.
Indeed. So I thought that was kind of fun. But back to tonight here, we've got the key things for Prescott. Philadelphia is the 21st ranked passing DVOA in week 9. These teams squared off. Dak threw for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns in a loss. In each of the last 5 weeks, Dallas has allowed multiple touchdowns to the opposing quarterback, and 4 of the 5 threw for more than 310 yards. So
wow, okay, good stats.
Yeah, that was Philly that had allowed that, right? So we're talking about Dak. So they're kind of falling apart at the last minute, and they added a defensive back near the trade deadline, etc. But they're sort of exploitable there. Front 7 still very, very good against the rush. I want to say like they're 12th in rushing DVOA, something like that. So with regards to Dak, he's fine as a captain. The big knock about him is not getting enough rushing yards, Neil. But we should not be surprised, because we think of him as a runner a little bit, but his first 3 seasons in the league, he's never rushed for on average more than 22 rushing yards per game. But each of his first 3 seasons, he had 6 rushing touchdowns. So that made us start to think, he's nimble in the pocket. In the 40 games, 40, since that horrific ankle injury he had, he has rushed for just, I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 touchdowns. So that's kind of, he's got 2 rushing touchdowns this year, but that's kind of not really his bag anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't thought of, like, for the past couple of years, at least, I haven't really thought of Dak as being much of a running quarterback. And yeah, it just comes down to,
he never was. He actually never was.
Yeah, he was never like that much of a running quarterback. Yeah. It was never like elite. He was like, he was okay, but never great. All right. So quarterbacks, I think, are pretty straightforward. You laid out your rules. Are you going to have, maybe you said this, are you going to have lineups that have no quarterbacks?
I'm not going to try to. If that happens, I would be surprised. So actually, that's a really good point. So yesterday for the NBA championship game, pretty much every single lineup I had Davis, LeBron, and Halliburton in all 3 of them in some form or fashion. And they were just coming up so much. I finally just made, 10% of my lineups, removing one of them, 10% more, removing one of the 3, right? So I circled through. So at that point, I at least had, 30% of my lineups only had 2 of them. Right? But it turned out, hey, rolling with all 3 wasn't the worst idea in the world. Halliburton didn't quite get there. I feel that's kind of the same way with these quarterbacks tonight, because Dak is he's on his A game. Remember the interception problem last year when he led the league with 15 interceptions? He has 6 this year. That's the fewest among starting quarterbacks who have played 12 games.
You say Dak only has 6 interceptions this year?
Aberration. Let's call that an. Yeah, Dak has been. He's got a 1.5% interception rate, which his career rate is 1.9. So
yeah, it's obviously, and this is obviously.
I was all over Pro Football Reference.
Here. Nice, good for you. Good for you.
Could maybe a little bit, but I'm liking in there. So.
People in chat, a lot of people in chat talking about my Minnesota Vikings and their wonderful game today that they won 3-0. I actually watched very little of that game, and I am so glad that
they won.
A ton of time watching that game. Yeah, they won 3-0. As people are saying, maybe the worst football game of all time. I actually almost went out to Vegas for this game. I'm if I weren't going to Arizona this upcoming weekend, it was contingent on my cousin was telling me that if the Timberwolves won or got to the championship of the in-season tournament, it would have been in Vegas. So he invited me to go out there to watch the Timberwolves in Vegas along with the Vikings the same weekend. So there was a chance that I was going to be there. But I know a few people who I actually don't know if they ended up going, but a few people who were talking about going out to Vegas for this game. And man, what a brutal game to go to if you went out, especially with Justin Jefferson getting hurt early. Yeah, not a very fun game for my Minnesota.
Jefferson
Vikings.
got hurt again.
Yeah, Jefferson got hurt.
I went on a nice walk on the beach. I ran some errands. I wrote an article. I was not really watching football. I just wasn't in a football mood because I knew I was going to watch tonight. Because see, look at this. I'm drinking coffee so I can stay awake to watch this one.
I was
because I can't watch tomorrow's doubleheader, Neil. It's Monday Mayhem.
Oh, you can't.
The third doubleheader that we have. We're going over to friends for dinner, and I didn't want to disappoint my wife, so I will make one lineup, and that's it. So I will not be nose in the computer at somebody else's house. That's kind of rude.
Okay. Yeah, that is.
I am when they come to our house. I'm like, sure. See you guys in 20 minutes. Like that's stuff I gotta do, but I won't do that.
And you have that right. You have that right. All right. I was in the mood to watch some football today, but we went to a Christmas market here in St. Paul. So I was kind of like, walking through crowds, looking at my phone the whole time, just tracking the games instead of actually watching. All right. Running backs. Let's move on. Talk about these running backs. And typically I would be surprised if I have any lineups tonight that don't have at least one quarterback in it. Maybe I guess there are like some other stars here. So like we do have CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Tony Pollard, a lot of other stars. So maybe it'll happen, but probably not a ton of lineups that don't have at least one quarterback. All right. Running backs. Where do you want to start with running backs?
Let's go with Philly first. So the Philly backfield has mostly been consolidated. It's DeAndre Swift. He is coming off his worst game of the season. That was against San Francisco. Remember, last Sunday, Deebo Samuel had 3 touchdowns against them. Deebo had 2 touchdowns today against my Seahawks, so I'm not happy about that. But whatever. Deebo's in my Yahoo lineup, which is doing quite well. So nice. DeAndre Swift had just 13 rushing yards with 6 carries, only 2 catches for 7 yards. He did get 6 targets. On the other side, Gainwell is basically down to getting 1 or 2 carries a game. He did get 6 targets last week, but he's down to about half a dozen opportunities per game. This has really become Swift's team backfield over Gainwell. Gainwell's lurking. He will play, but he hasn't had a red zone touch. Did I write that down? He hasn't had a red zone touch, I think, in the last 6 games, or maybe just 1 in the last 6 games. And if you remember, through the first few games, he had quite a few because they were, the whole is Rashad Penny going to be active and that whole thing. And the first game where Swift didn't really play much or factor in, and it was Gainwell. It's kind of been downhill since then. Boston Scott in the last 3 games has 5 total carries and 2 targets. So he will be lurking. We will see him on the field. He may not get a touch. But Gainwell, I think we can probably leave out unless you're building more than 50 lineups. And Swift.
Gainwell had played more snaps than DeAndre Swift last week. So
yes, but that was Swift was just having a horrible game. If you run it all the way back, another 7 weeks, Gainwell until last week, he had been down to about 30% of the snaps.
Okay, but so you don't think that this is a possible takeover? Like maybe he's earned a little bit more of the role with DeAndre Swift struggling last week.
Famous last words. This is going to be clipped. We can leave him out.
All right.
Let's look at his salary.
And we have. Oh yeah, I'm looking.
A huge bold stand.
He's 4,600. Point per dollar, he looks awful. He's 4,600. We have him projected for under 5 fantasy points. So based on the projection, point per dollar, he does not look good at all. I'm just, it gives me a little bit of pause to completely write a guy off after last week. He played the majority of snaps. He played 53.6% of snaps last week. He only had 2 carries, but he ran routes on 55.4% of dropbacks, saw 5 targets last week. So I don't know. I'd be hesitant to completely write him off at 4,600.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. All right.
No, a personal thing, right? Well, if everybody's all agreeable and we all say the same things, etc., hey, this could bite me in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, you are
no
trusting
surprise.
the longer trend of Gainwell being like not
Yes.
very involved, and I'm looking at the last game and saying, maybe there's going to be a flip. If he's going to be low owned, I'll take some shots there in large field tournaments.
Yeah, Swift has just been so good over the last half dozen games. It's hard to. It just doesn't feel right. But in game injury, he gets hurt early, right? And all of a sudden, everybody's laughing at me. Aha, you should have played Gainwell. It's like, well, if I had known he was going to get a dozen touches, I would have played him, right?
Right.
But if I'm projecting him, or I'm speculating he's going to get 5 or 6, not very exciting. What do we do with Tony Pollard? That's the big issue. So against Philadelphia, he had in week 9, 12 carries, 51 yards, 5 targets, just 3 catches and 12 yards. If we look at everything he's doing right now, it's that he had that tightrope surgery on the ankle tendon because he got hurt in their last playoff game, right? So it's one we don't hear about as much because you can come back after it, but you're not. It's different than the knee injuries and obviously the Achilles and things like that. But the surgery to get back to your full health, you get back. It seems like 70 to 80%. I went down a little path reading up on this, but about 70 or 80%, you get back relatively quickly, but you plateau for a long time. And that's what I think we're seeing in conjunction with the additional workload, right? Last year, he was a Pro Bowler, but he only technically started 4 games. His career, I'm going from memory here, but his career per carry, yards per carry, I think is 5.1. He has 4.1 this season. And he's not, and only 5.9 per reception, which is both of those are career lows. But by the end of the year, he will have very similar raw totals to what he did last year. He's just getting there on volume. But if he had 2 or 3 short touchdowns, we wouldn't be bitching about him, right? We were expecting, right. Oh my God, he's the next a young Alvin Kamara, if you will, right? He's 26, so that may be it.
Yeah, and he has looked a little bit slower this year. I will say for just looking at the last game, like the volume is there. So that's, on a one game, in a one game environment, you got to be, considering volume pretty extensively. We have Pollard in the last game, 76% of snaps, had 20 of the team's 25 running back carries, and ran routes on 52.2% of dropbacks, 4 targets. So the volume remains elite for Pollard. Neither of these defenses is a good spot for running backs. These are both, just looking at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed per game over the past 5 weeks. Both of these are bottom 5 matchups right now. So not a great spot for Pollard. I guess maybe you're hoping that he's a little bit more involved in the passing game. Obviously, he could get it done on the ground. You see it happen all the time. The matchup doesn't dictate everything. Broken plays happen all the time. Just takes one thing to change the entire script. But it is not a great spot for any of these running backs. What ultimately do you think you're doing with Pollard, EMac?
I'll leave him in the player pool, but I will likely end up below him on the field. Just a function of I'd rather have the pass catchers on both sides.
Okay, that's fair. Are you playing any Rico Dowdle?
No. Well, I mean, if he slides into a few lineups, then I'm not saying no, which I guess I should be saying. It was the same thing with Gainwell, but at their respective price points, not very much. Dowdle has, he should get a couple of carries, like between 3 and 5, but they won't be high leverage, and he should get a target or 2. But it's going to take something to happen to Pollard for him to really do much. Or luck into a touchdown, sort of how we saw Mason get that touchdown today after Christian McCaffrey broke off the 70 yard run. I wasn't watching the game, but I assume that's what happened because the next play it was the backup running back that scored the 3-yard touchdown. Yeah,
actually, I wasn't watching either, but I assumed the same thing. He was just exhausted. Yeah,
and it's like, well, that could happen, right? And then all of a sudden, Rico Dowdle, he's not a bad player. He's just, he's average. He's decent. Hunter Lubke is more of a fullback. He'll be out on the field, but his last carry was in week 4. His last target was in week 9 against Philadelphia, but that's the last time he touched the ball. So I really don't think you want to go that route. But What is Dowdle?
I need to know what Kadarius Toney just did.
Dowdle is 3,000.
They're just complaining about him. Yeah, Dowdle, he's cheap. Yeah, I don't think he has a lot of independent value. Like I don't, he doesn't get enough opportunities to pay off the $3,000 price tag. Typically, like he does have I think maybe 3 touchdowns on the year. Like, but I don't know that he has more than like 10, 11 fantasy points in any game. So even when he does score the touchdown, he's just not seen enough opportunities to really pay off. It's usually within the 10-yard line, he scores a touchdown, and then that's like it.
For full PPR, he had 14 points in week 10. That was 12 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown against the Giants in that blowout. And then in week 3 against Arizona, that was a loss. He ended up scoring a receiving touchdown. He caught 3 passes as well. Those are his only 2 weeks in double digits.
Yeah. So he could, 3,000 if he gets there to, 40, I think he said 14 fantasy points for one, maybe 14 fantasy points. That would probably, you would want him. Like if I knew he was going to get 14 fantasy points, obviously I would play him, particularly in this matchup, but it's not especially likely. He does have the added bonus, as you said, of contingent value. Like if Pollard goes down, suddenly he's the guy, and you'd love to have him at 3,000. So he does have that going for him. I don't know.
Yeah, and the difference between Dowdle and Gainwell has a better shot for the passing game. Dowdle's going to get the low leverage carries, and they'll each end up 6-7 opportunities, but Gainwell's in theory would be more valuable because they'll probably would be like 4 targets, 2 carries, and it'd be flipped for Dowdle.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also that Gainwell just played a lot last week. So I think there are multiple reasons that I like Gainwell quite a bit more than Dowdle, even though he is more expensive. Just I think there's some chance that he could get more of a role, like split the role this week, regardless of what happens in the game. So yeah, I like Gainwell better of those two. Anything else you want to say about running backs here?
No, other than Clyde Edwards-Helaire was disappointing today, as was Zach Moss. That was
very true. Very true.
You didn't say that had to be from this game. You said right.
You are right. I was not. You got to be very specific when you're talking to EMac. He'll get you on those technicalities. All right. Well, let's move on to wide receivers from the Eagles-Cowboys game, EMac. Okay, just from the Eagles. Right. Let's talk about active current day wide receivers in the Sunday Night Football game tonight from the Eagles and Cowboys. Okay.
Very well. Right. And we're going to add in tight ends because we kind of need to for this part of the discussion with Philly.
Let's do that.
So Dallas Goedert is back. He left week 9 against Dallas when he suffered a hairline fracture on his forearm. But he is back now. He's been a full participant in practice, so he should be good to go. That could put a damper on Devonta Smith in the 3 games without Goddard. So the last 3 weeks, Smith has averaged 7.3 receptions, 100.3 yards, and he scored in 2 of the 3 games. Going to be a challenge because with Goddard back, those guys tend to share targets. It seems like this year, it seems that way. You've got AJ Brown, who is averaging 97 receiving yards per game, which is the 4th most in the league. He has 7 touchdowns and he has 19 plays of at least 20 yards. Those are both top 5 marks. So he has really separated himself from Devonta Smith. Is the Batman and Robin. This year it's the Batman and did Robin have a sidekick, I guess, because that's kind of what's happened to Devonta Smith this year. So totally playable. I like him as a leverage option, right? Because people aren't going to be excited about this development. But how many people are going to forget that that's why he's been doing so well? It's because Goddard has been out. If you go back and look at all the games where they played together, Devonta was averaging I didn't end up putting it in my article, but he was averaging like just over 55 yards in those games. And I think he had 5 touchdowns. But remember, we had a couple squeaky wheel games with him, and he was kind of complaining at the first part of the season. The way things have been going, it's really been all AJ Brown this time. The return of Goddard is also going to, as well as Quez Watkins, who was healthy last week. Watkins was on the field for 64% of the snaps, and he had 4 targets. That's going to put Olamide Zaccheaus, and I'm assuming Julio Jones is active tonight. I didn't pull up active inactives. I'm not going to play Julio Jones, but those guys are going to be relegated to duking it out with each other. And then you've got Albert O, who, I think he's played like 60 snaps while Goddard was out. He had one target. He got it last week.
I'm going to
non-factor, even if he's.
Do you want me to read the inactives, EMac?
Yeah, if you could.
Wait, I had it right in front. I want to double check that this is correct. So of players who are eligible, from what I can tell, it is Deuce Vaughn, Jalen Brooks, and Trey Lance are out from the Cowboys.
Okay.
For the Eagles, we have Rashad Penny out. So that's kind of interesting. Once again, Albert O is also out for this game. So Julio Jones is active for this one.
Yep. So
those are the relevant.
So Deuce Vaughn has been a regular sit the last few weeks, as Rashad Penny. So that makes sense. Nothing there. Julio is dealing with a groin injury. It's just there's nothing to see there with Julio. But Quez Watkins, I think, is interesting in that discount bucket, particularly in full PPR. And then
third on the team in terms of routes last week.
Yeah, Jack Stoll is $200 on DraftKings. You would not play him on FanDuel. He's $200 on DraftKings. He'll be on the field for around a third of the snaps, but we want to know he only has 7 targets this season. 4 of them came in the last 3 weeks when Goddard was out. His role didn't change a whole bunch while Goddard was out either, other than he got 1 target per game, basically, as opposed to like a target every other game. And then Grant Calcaterra he's going to be on the field for 10 or 12% of the snaps, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to Grant Calcaterra. With Goddard back, it just seems a little bit like it wasn't working out with Goddard out. So now it's asking a lot for these guys to hit with Goddard back. All right.
It is.
Anything else that you want to say about Eagles receivers? Let me see if I have anything to add too.
I think that covers everything for Eagles.
Yeah, I think you covered it
Dallas,
very well. Quez Watkins last week, 70% rep participation. I think, as you said, EMac saw 4 targets in the game, so that is promising. I would say he is. What do we have? And somebody asked me to pull up the single game tool, and I'm going to do that in a minute. It looks like we have 8% ownership going to Quez, at least in what I have pulled up. I'm going to pull up the single game tool though, so we can look at that as we're talking about it. All right, so you want to move on, talk about some Dallas. You go ahead and do that while I pull up the tools.
Sure. So CeeDee Lamb, I think, is captain viable. He's going to be a popular captain. He'll be up there with the quarterbacks. He is averaging 98.5 yards per game. That is behind only the ungodly 123.4 yards per game of Tyreek Hill. CD is third with 90 receptions, and his 7 touchdowns are the 5th most. And he has 23 plays of at least 20 yards. The only player that has more is Tyreek Hill, and he has 24. Last in week 9 against the Eagles, week 9 against the Eagles, he had 16 targets, 11 catches, 119 yards. CeeDee Lamb is amazing. He is going to be my cash game captain. There should still be some team free money. Head-to-heads in the DK lobby, just $1. Username EMac. If they're gone, I'll throw some more in there. But that is my thought there. CeeDee Lamb is one of my 3 favorite plays in this game. Brandon Cooks, 10 years in the league, 5 different franchises, still getting it done. He's going to get 4 or 5 targets. He is definitely the wide receiver 2. Michael Gallup slightly falling out of favor now because Jalen Tolbert, who was the disappointing rookie last year, is actually kind of crowding him out for routes and targets. I'm not doing cartwheels for either one. You can play either of them. Hope they get, do something with their 2 or 3 targets that they're likely to see. I would prefer not to play them on the same team, and I did set a rule to not have them on the same roster. It's a function of, if one's on the field, the other's not going to be. And that's kind of the hard part. Kevontae Turpin is the main kick returner. And the Jake Elliott, I couldn't tell. I don't watch enough of the Eagles games, but I can't tell if Jake Elliott just doesn't get it into the end zone, which I don't think is the case because he was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago and he's been outstanding from distance. But I think the Eagles try to land it on the inside the 5 and make the other teams return it. He has had 16 returned field kickoffs against him this year, whereas Aubrey, the rookie kicker for Dallas, he's only had, I think, 5 kicks returned. Everything else has been touchbacks. So that would be more helpful for Turpin, right? He'll also return punts. He has averaged, over his last 5 games, Turpin has averaged 11 offensive plays per game. He has 19 total targets in those 5 games, 10 receptions, 129 yards and a touchdown, and he has 2 rushing attempts. So he's going to be on the field for around 10 targets or 10 to 12 snaps. The team usually schemes 2 or 3 plays for him. He doesn't mean he's going to end up with the ball, but they usually scheme 2 or 3 plays for him because he's one of their more dynamic players. He will be in my cash game lineup.
Devontae Turpin. All right, you play some interesting cash game plays. You don't just go with the obvious guys.
I don't get duped a lot, which is kind of fun.
in cash, okay. Devontae Turpin last week, 8 routes run last week. So you're asking for something to hit on just a couple opportunities there for Devontae
he's
Turpin.
1,600 or 1,800 on DK. So
3 targets last week.
Tight ends, though, this is where it gets interesting. So Jake Ferguson was outstanding last week, second best game of his career. He's a rookie. He had 8 targets, 6 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. He has scored in 4 of his last 6 games. And if you guys watched the Showdown slates in this show for the last couple seasons, I always talked about Dalton Schultz when he was there. We love that little wheel route that goes up the sideline where Dak just lands it right in their breadbasket and they get 17 to 22 yards on that play. Peyton Hendershot looks like a capable, not Peyton Hendershot, Jake Ferguson looks like a capable replacement to Dalton Schultz. Peyton Hendershot is active tonight. They put him in his 21-day practice window like 19 days ago or whatever it was. This was the Fisher cut bait. They would have either needed to put him on the permanent injured reserve or potentially release him, but he is active tonight. I don't know what to do with him. I think he's the DK minimum. If I remember correctly, he's at 200. Likely that means Sean McKeon may be active, but will hardly play. I don't even think McKeon has a target this season. Luke Schoonmaker looks like he is the tight end 2. He is going to be on the field for about 30 to 40% of the snaps, and he has 1 target in each of his last 6 games, or 4 games or 6 games. In his last 6 games, but only 8 total targets. So 6 games, 8 targets, but he's had a target in every game. That's not very exciting.
It's not very exciting at all.
Consistent as hell, right? But it's not very exciting. So he's perhaps a Neil's nobody. What do you think about Peyton Hendershot?
I'm not excited about Peyton Hendershot. I think he's just a guy we haven't projected for sub 2 fantasy points. So it's tough. Like Jake Ferguson, I think is like the pretty clear tight end 1, and then it's fighting between Luke Schoonmaker, Peyton Hendershot. I don't know. They're kind of similar, honestly, to the Eagles after Dallas Goedert. Just like, okay, they've got a bunch of guys who play a little bit here or there. I can't really tell you which one of them is the likeliest to just score a random touchdown. So I'm not particularly excited about any of them. They're all guys who he could end up in the end zone for 1 target, and if he hits it, you're going to want him. But none of them are particularly inspiring. None of them are likely to get a ton of run here.
All right, I'm going to put another 10 team free money head-to-heads in the DK lobby because it looks like they were all scooped up. So enjoy. I think I lost 90% of them the last primetime game.
It's not great.
That's why we call it team free money, Neil.
Exactly. I'm sure people appreciate the free
giving
money that
back
you're
to
giving
the community.
Yeah. All right. So you've talked about all of the pass catchers for the most part.
Yep.
Did you have any other notes on any of them, or should I run down?
No, I think those were the main ones. And we even threw in the kick return stuff. We should probably talk about the kickers, I guess, right?
Well, let me just throw out what I'm seeing as far as like routes run, just to add a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So because last week I had mentioned, I don't remember if I think the Cowboys were on an island game or something, but it appeared that Jalen Tolbert had overtaken Michael Gallup in the few weeks leading up to last week. And then last week, Michael Gallup came back and saw Wait, did he have just one target? I thought Michael Gallup had a game. Anyway, in week 13, Michael Gallup ran routes on 45.7% of dropbacks to Jalen Tolbert's 34.8. So Jalen Tolbert seemed to have taken on like a real role as a wide receiver 3 for the Cowboys. Maybe has reverted behind Michael Gallup once again, just based on route participation from the last week. Each of them just saw one target though, so nothing too exciting there either way. Luke Schoonmaker, 8 routes run in that game. Kevontae Turpin, 8 routes run, and then Sean McKeon, another one of those Dallas tight ends, just 2 routes run in that game, so not particularly involved. And then as far as the Eagles go, I will pull that up also, and this is also the Eagles without Dallas Goedert, so keep that in mind. But Devontae Smith, 93% route participation in week 13. AJ Brown, 80%. Quez Watkins, 70%. Albert O was at 48% in that game. Now he's obviously going to revert with Goddard back. And then Olamide Zacchaeus at 25%. Julio Jones, just 12.5%, just ran 7 routes in that game. So kind of hard to want to go to any of those guys. All right, let's talk about those kickers.
All righty. Just entering a few more contests here. Let me get back to my notes. So kickers, this is kind of fun, actually. You have Jake Elliott has made 6 of 7 from 50 plus. That's 86% conversion rates from beyond 50 yards, including a career high 61 yarder, which led me to think that the lack of touchbacks is not the leg issue. It's the Philadelphia strategy. So I think he is good. And now he's not outside. He is in the Jerry Dome. On the other side, you've got Brandon Aubrey, who has missed 3 kicks this year, but they were only extra points, Neil. He is 26 for 26 on field goals, including 5 from beyond 50. That's pretty impressive for a rookie. They're both very viable tonight.
EMac, I want to throw, we've got a super chat that we have not answered yet. Nathan Perkins asking, you may have said it, but the best $200 play. Do you have a thought, EMac, on the best min price play on DraftKings?
Let me get back over to this. It is, the arguments are going to be Peyton Hendershot or Jack Stoll. Sorry. I would probably go with Hendershot myself. We have each of them projected for under 2 points. Basically, you're looking at a 7-yard catch for each of them on full PPR. Stoll has the more regular role. Hendershot is coming off injured reserve. They did wait all 3 weeks before 3 games before they activated him. But, hey, he's back. He's healthy. He's missed a whole chunk of the season. Maybe they throw him a ball or two, right? That's what you're kind of hoping for. I wouldn't fight you for either one, but those are the 2 I would go after. Grant Calcaterra just does not get enough targets. And as I mentioned with Hunter Lupke, he is the kind of a fullback, H-back guy. Forget it. His last target, I think, was week 9, and his last carry was week 4. We don't want to play him. But I think Hendershot or Jack Stoll are viable.
I think
it is not a discount dandies.
These are, none of these guys are like players that you can play with confidence. So generally, I would prefer not to play a $200 player, just to be clear about that. But since we are being forced to answer those, I think that you got the order exactly right. The considerate, I think those are the only 3 that I would really consider among the min price guys are Hunter Lupke, who I agree with you. I think would probably be 3rd. I think that it's pretty clearly Hendershot number 1 of the 200 guys. And then, it's between Stoll and Lupke. And I think I'd rank Stoll just ahead of Lupke, maybe. But it's, I think it'd be Peyton Hendershot number 1. But to be clear, I don't have any confidence in any of the $200 guys. Those are just the likeliest, I think. All right.
Do you want to see what happens in my cash game lineup if I take out Kevontae? Now you know why I'm playing Kevontae Turpin and Quez Watkins. It's because there's really no good cheap guys below that. I wonder if I turn Turpin into Peyton Hendershot, does that allow me to upgrade one of my kicker spots? Look, I've basically announced my lineup to you guys. You should be taking this team free money.
Go take that free money.
If I take out Hendershot, Neil, I can really not upgrade to anything.
All right.
Very sad.
All right, so I have the single game tool pulled up right now, EMac, and I guess you can talk about kickers. I'll show you. So currently I have it sorted by captain odds. In a second, while EMac is talking about the kickers, I'll change it and I'll sort by optimal odds, and then we'll also check out who are the best leverage plays currently on the slate. But I wanted to show you. Oh man, I don't have it. Actually, I don't have it sorted correctly. I have sorted by captain ownership currently. My bad. I was rushing there. Here's the captain optimal order, starting with CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, AJ Brown are our top captain optimal odds, and then it drops down after AJ Brown, 9% AJ Brown to 5.5% Jake Ferguson. So this is sorted now by captain optimal odds. And Brandon Aubrey, you can see down here, has 3.6% chance of being the optimal captain. Jake Elliott at 2.4% captain optimal. So you already went over your Aubrey. Did you talk about Jake Elliott already?
Yeah, but I also want to bring up Boston Scott. I was just double checking to make sure he wasn't a $200 player. He's a $2,000 player on DK. He does return kicks, but as I mentioned, Dallas has only allowed 5 kick returns all season. Britton Covey is returning punts. He's not going to be. He hasn't been got an offensive snap in quite some time. And then I couldn't tell for sure who was returning punts at this point for Philly, because it's kind of been. I mean. For Dallas, because they haven't really seen too many punts. I am assuming it's Turpin, but it could be someone else. Deuce Vaughn's inactive. He had been their other kick returner earlier this year, so I'm guessing it's Turpin. But I just wanted to put that out there. And then defenses. Dallas defense obviously gets a bump for being at home. They are averaging 1.5 takeaways per game, while Philadelphia is allowing a similar number of turnovers. The Cowboys are among the top third of the league with 3.2 sacks per game. Philly is allowing 2.7 per game. The Eagles defense is, they're getting almost 3 sacks per game. The Cowboys are only allowing 2 sacks per game. And then Dallas has a league low 10 turnovers because, again, Dak Prescott just has 6 picks. And then Philly doesn't take the ball away very often. They only have 14 takeaways in 12 games. So while they have a good rushing defense, they don't give a lot of they get okay quarterback pressure, but they don't get turnovers.
Sure. EMac, by the way, I have the top single game tool pulled up, and I was just looking at it and seeing if it agrees with us in terms of optimal odds for $200 plays, and you got the order exactly correct. It was Hendershot number 1, then Stoll, then Lupke. So for what it's worth, as far as $200 plays go, the top single game tool also agrees with you there. All right. Any other notes on defense here?
No, I think we hit all the good stuff, Neil.
All right, we hit all the good stuff talking about defense. I am gonna we can talk briefly about this tool, and then we're gonna take a look at our sims also. So what we have on the screen right now is the top single game tool. This comes if you sign up for any of our NFL packages other than Lineup Generator, which is a standalone thing. All of the other packages will come with this as part of it. This being the top single game tool. It looks kind of similar to the Boom Bust tool. It gives you just a player's odds of hitting and their ownership is basically what it comes down to. These tools just kind of give you the odds so you can figure out who are the best leverage plays. And you can see right now I'm sorted by util optimal. I can sort here by leverage, which is just going to be odds of being optimal minus ownership. So if a player is over owned, they're going to have a negative leverage score. If they are under owned, as we projected, they're going to have a positive leverage score. So currently Tony Pollard, our top positive leverage play on the slate. Dak Prescott number 2, Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks, Brandon Aubrey, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts on down. And then as far as negatively leveraged players go, we have Kenneth Gainwell number 1. So EMac doesn't want to play doesn't want to play Gainwell. I am playing the most negatively leveraged play on the slate, apparently, with Kenneth Gainwell. Then we got Devontae Smith number 2. With it kind of makes sense with Dallas Goedert returning. You kind of would expect Devontae Smith to be a little bit overowned based on what he's done recently. Got DeAndre Swift number 3, Boston Scott number 4. And so on. But this is the single game tool. I also want to look at. I ran some sims, EMac, just a little bit ago. I ran a few sims here. Interestingly, our top 2 in terms of simulated ROI, EMac, we have Jake Ferguson as the captain in both of those. We have in our top simulated ROI lineup overall, and this is 0 dupes across 10,000 lineups. it uses the full salary cap, so I would guess this one is going to be duped if in the actual large field contest. But this one not duped in this 10,000 lineup set. Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts, and then Kevontae Turpin. So we have 4-2 Cowboys lineup with Jake Ferguson in the captain spot, paired with Dak Prescott, and then of course CeeDee Lamb there as well. And Kevontae Turpin. So we got Dak Prescott with 3 of his pass catchers, and then we also have Jalen Hurts with Dallas Goedert in that one. Our second best lineup leaves just 200 on the table. So all of our top lineups today. Apparently, this is not a great slate for players like myself who like to leave salary on the table as a way to get unique. Maybe the better ways to get unique.
There's no cheapies. You're going to have to go down to Turpin or Boston Scott or Zacchaeus, and that's garbage, because then you're going to need one other different player. And then
it's basically like you kind of have to, like, you probably have to go to like multiple somewhat cheapies, like the kickers and defenses, and go into guys like Gainwell, Olamide, Zacchaeus, because we don't have any true like good plays that are very cheap. So yeah, it's a little bit of a tough one. All right. So these are our top lineups right here in the Sims. Oops, I pressed the wrong window. Yeah, so we got 2 Jake Ferguson lineups at the top, and then another tight end here. Dallas Goedert in the captain spot is our third best in terms of simulated ROI. Brandon Cooks, Brandon Aubrey, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Tony Pollard. So that makes sense. Nice correlation there. Dallas Goedert with Jalen Hurts in there. We do not. We have Dak Prescott in there as well with Brandon Cooks, and then kind of a secondary correlation with Tony Pollard. And then, of course, the kicker for the Cowboys, Brandon Aubrey, in that one. And then a fourth one, we have got a Dak captain lineup. Those are always kind of fun to look at what the Sims give us. If it is a construction, if it's constructed the same way that I like to typically construct my lineups, and this one is dead on the way I like to construct my lineups. Dak Prescott with Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson, and Tony Pollard. And then we have the Cowboys defense and DeAndre Swift in that one as well. And this one's actually leaving 900 on the table. So that's good to see that you can create some lineups that are leaving a little salary on the table. But interestingly, this one leaving 900 on the table actually does have a dupe within this 10,000 lineup set. Who knows if that's just a fluke or if that's an indication that it will be more duped generally. But that kind of surprised me that this one leaving salary on the table is more duped than the top one that doesn't leave any salary on the table. But that's kind of the beauty of the Sims. You can see, all the more factors are factored in there, and like, why will this lineup be duped than we can usually think of. So kind of interesting to look at the Sims here. Of course, if you haven't signed up for the Sims, you can do so using the link in the description of this video. I will also find a link from this stream that I can post into chat for anybody who's interested in checking out our Sims. I will post it there. But it's a really, really powerful tool here, just looking at the Sims. And if you give me 1 second, I'm also going to just look at our top 150. Who are the players we get to the most in the top 150 simulated lineups tonight? So I will pull that up. But let me just throw this Sim into chat, and I'll just do Sims Max monthly. Yeah, let's do that. Or no, I'll do wait, we have data in Sims Max. I don't know what all these things mean, EMac. I sometimes struggle with how we actually label our different offerings.
The data with Sims Max means you get every single thing on the site.
Okay, gotcha.
I believe.
All right, I just posted it into chat. So if you want to check out the Sims, there you can find it. Check it out if you have not already done so. And then of course I also pulled up the lineup generator. But first, I want to just fully look at the Sims here. So I'm going to, I need to go back to lineups. I need a quick favorite, top 150. And then you can look at, of those 150, who are our top exposed players. We got to 59% Dak Prescott, 54% Jalen Hurts. Makes sense. You're getting to a lot of these quarterbacks. If they're good quarterbacks, you usually do get a lot of the quarterbacks. We also got 39% Tony Pollard. We got 34% Jake Ferguson, 33% Eagles defense, 31% CeeDee Lamb. And then we drop down to Aubrey, Cooks, Jake Elliott, DeAndre Swift, a lot of different players represented here in our top 150 set. I also wanted to, before we look at the lineup generator, we did have several people asking to look at FanDuel. So I'm just going to look real quick at the FanDuel top tool, just see who are our top captain optimal and util optimal plays, because I'm sure people are curious about that. Our top captain optimal play currently on FanDuel, Jalen Hurts. Makes sense. He is the top projected play on the slate. Generally, you do need whoever the top scoring player in your lineup is. That's who you want to be in the MVP spot. Since there is no salary multiplier, Jalen Hurts is going to be the top scoring play on the slate a lot of the time. So 17%, not a huge surprise. Actually, 16,000, not all that expensive for Jalen Hurts on FanDuel. Dak Prescott right behind him at 16% optimal captain. CeeDee Lamb 16% optimal captain. Tony Pollard 11%. AJ Brown 9%, and then we have the drop down to 5%. Jake Ferguson and so on, and several players that you can get at low ownership, but also low odds of success. And then in terms of util optimal, we got Jalen Hurts again, number 1, 45% chance of being optimal in the util spot. Tony Pollard, number 2. That's sort of interesting, seeing Tony Pollard ahead of Dak in terms of util optimal. It's just barely, but that is sort of interesting to see, both at about 43%. Then we have CeeDee Lamb at 39%, Jake Ferguson 28%, AJ Brown 27%, Brandon Aubrey 26%, Jake Elliott 25%. So kickers looking pretty good on FanDuel. And then it's a drop down from there. A lot of players, spread out a little bit. So just wanted to give the FanDuel people a little bit of love, show them the tool for that, because we had a few questions about it earlier, people wanting to take a look at it. Let me make sure I haven't missed any super chats or anything. Yeah, it looks like I'm good on that front. All right. I am going to go back and maybe I should run the Sims for FanDuel instead of doing the lineup generator like we usually do. Maybe if people want to just look at the Sims for FanDuel.
That's a fair thing to do. And I'm about to upload my lineup, so I can.
We have till 7:20, right? Because I have to upload mine still too. All right.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to in this. I'll show you the full what the whole process looks like. So right now I am in the contest generator. And when you get here, it's not going to show you this stuff. It's showing that because I already ran it on DraftKings. But now I'm going to pull up FanDuel, choose the slate, which is Philly, Dallas. And then I pool size of 10,000 is what I'm going to here. So I'm going to generate 10,000 lineups here. It's currently generating the lineups for me. And then after I have generated the lineups, then we can throw it into the pre-contest simulator. And we will then be simming these lineups against each other once we get to that point. And this is going to take a minute. Mark asks, is the game going to be live in here? No, we do not stream the game on this channel. All right. So now I have generated
tried that a few times, but not enough people want to watch it.
Is that right? They just want to watch it on their own. Yeah, honestly, I don't think I would enjoy. I don't know if I would. Maybe I would enjoy being on the stream as we watch the game. I don't know. I have a rough setup for it right now. Maybe if I could figure out the right setup to enjoy that, it could be fun.
Well, what you do is there's a couple services you kind of all coalesce.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Watch it on stream. So that means you can't be looking at your phone because you're about 90 seconds behind everything else. So
sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's what seems to annoy people.
Could be fun. All right. Now I've generated the lineups. Now we have 10,000 lineups. Now I'm going to click simulate lineups. It's going to bring me to the pre-contest simulator. And now I can choose, based on whatever contest you're in, you look at what the prize pool is, what percentage is going to first. A lot of them are 25%. So I'm just going to run 25% to first contest for that type of contest. I'm going to click run contest simulation. And this is on FanDuel. It's simulated the 10,000 lineups that we just created against each other to figure out over the long term, over thousands of sims, which end up making the most money over tens of thousands of sims. So really, really powerful stuff here. And reminder, I put the link in the description into chat already. It's also in the description of this video. All right, man, our top lineup just absolutely crushes it. Uses the full salary cap EMac, but this is our best lineup by far. We've got Jalen Hurts paired with Quez Watkins and Devontae Smith. So that's a little bit of a surprise. No AJ Brown, but you got Jalen Hurts with multiple pass catchers in the flex. And then we also have Dak Prescott and Brandon Cook. So from a correlation standpoint, EMac, this is like spot on. You got the quarterback in the MVP spot with two pass catchers in the flex. And then you also got another quarterback with one of his pass catchers, uses the full salary. This looks like a fantastic FanDuel lineup to me. The only concern that I have with this one is, of course, the salary, using the full $60,000 salary cap. But we have this one with zero dupes. Not buying it. I mean, for a large field GP, I shouldn't say I'm not buying it because this is only in the 10,000 lineups we just did. That doesn't mean that it's going to be zero duped in an actual large field contest. That's going to be a lot more players. This lineup will be duped if you play this in a large field contest, to be clear. but it looks like it's not going to be duped that much. So really, really nice FanDuel lineup at the top. Second lineup, we've got AJ Brown. That's interesting. AJ Brown in the MVP spot. We've got Jalen Hurts in there with him, along with the Eagles defense. Also the Cowboys defense. We've got AJ Brown in the MVP with the Cowboys defense. And then we also have Tony Pollard in that one. This one does leave 1,500 on the table. So this is, again, surprising me a little bit. This one says it's going to have one dupe, whereas the top one only has 0, despite leaving 1,500 on the table. Sort of interesting to see that. And then our third lineup, this one, we got a Dak Prescott MVP lineup with just one pass catcher in Brandon Cooks. We've also got the Cowboys defense, Cowboys kicker, and then Jalen Hurts naked here. So that's kind of interesting, but Jalen Hurts definitely a quarterback that you can run out there without any pass catchers. So there you have it. There's the top sims on FanDuel. Now I'm going to quick favorite our top 150. We'll take a look at our top exposed players on FanDuel. 51.3% to Jalen Hurts in the captain spot. So we're getting to just a ton of Jalen Hurts captain. We're also getting to 29% Jalen Hurts in the util on FanDuel. So he's making it into 80% of our lineups in total. Tony Pollard, 39%, Dak Prescott, 39% in the flex, 35% Brandon Cooks, 33% Jake Elliott, 28% Brandon Aubrey, and so on. And then just a bunch of different players represented across these top 150. Actually, not that many. I say a bunch, and it's like scroll down. I guess just 31 players represented across these 150 lineups, with Luke Schoonmaker making it in there, Hunter Lupke making it in there once each, it looks like. So there you have it for FanDuel.
Boatload, Neil, a boatload of Quez Watkins tonight.
All right. I haven't even, I don't think I've run stuff. Yeah, let me run this real quick, and you take over. You talk, EMac.
We got this.
I know you've got no problem. You're a professional. You're a professional at this.
All right. Well, hit the like button. That's the important thing. SoTex says that. So whatever SoTex says, that's what we've got to do. Do you guys think both quarterbacks in one lineup will be the optimal? Yeah, I think that's fine. It's going to be similar to last night's NBA game, where really the top 3 players in some form or fashion were coming up in the vast majority of those optimals. So I have 0 issues with that. Let's see, what else do we have here coming through? Kickoff is 8:22 apparently, according to Yocastic, but we have a lock at 8:20.
Don't trust that guy. Can't trust Yocastic
for things. We didn't get a porn bot, but we did get a spam bot. So let's get rid of them. Let's see, what else do we have? I want to quickly talk. It's been a while. Now I said it. Now we're going to get him. I have Hurts. This is just my flex. I'll tell you what I got. I got Hurts in 80% of my lineups and Prescott in 70% of my lineups. So I do have some without them. Pollard, I ended up with 28%, Swift 19%, Gainwell 4%. I said I had a lot of Quez Watkins. I got him at 28%. I believe last I looked, we had him at like 8 or 10%. So I'm making a stand there. That was my biggest stand, I believe. Jalen Tolbert, I am over the field. Brandon Cooks, I am even. Devonta Smith, I'm under the field, but I did make sure I had a couple captain lineups with him. That was sort of my acquiescing there. AJ Brown, I'm even with the field. CeeDee Lamb, I'm even with the field. That's okay, because I've got a ton of Lamb. He's my captain in my cash game lineup, so he will be well represented in my portfolio tonight. Jake Ferguson, I wanted to be above the field. I did not get there, sadly. I'm at 16, the field's at 22. Goddard, I'm even with the field at 22. And then I've got a little bit of Schoonmaker, Hendershot, and Stoll, but it looks like I'm at or below the field. We have them on about 5 or a little less than 5% for each. I did go above on the kickers. So I'm 5% above on Elliott, and I'm 3% above on the rookie. And then the defenses, I look like I'm matching the field there. So it's really, for me, I need a good Quez Watkins game. I could use a middling game from Tony Pollard, or even a bad game, because I came in at 28%. The field's at 38%. And then I'm under on Swift as well. Rico Dowdle, everything else kind of about the same. I've got 2 Boston Scott lineups. We have 4 minutes till kickoff. Let's see what we've got here in the notes.
Do we have 4 or do we have 6? Depends on if you believe that
4.
guy Yocastic.
Your lock is 4 minutes, Neil.
Oh, it is.
That's all you care about.
See, come on, Mike. Trying to throw me off here.
Just, he's an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Rumor has it. Do you remember that after the Super Bowl when that one Eagles fan went down and ate the horse apple off the street, if you will?
I do not. I could totally see Mike doing that, but I do not know.
I
that
wonder
story.
if that was Mike. We don't hear that story. We hear a lot of other stories from him about the Philly days, but
yeah,
we'll see, including the BD Nick stories. So,
oh yeah, that's a good story. I'm sure he's posted that on his Twitter. At Awesomeo on Twitter, by the way. That is our producer, Mike Lawrence. One of our producers.
Aaron Dyson, Deuce Vaughn is inactive. Do not play him tonight. There's your thoughts.
Yep. Definitely no Deuce Vaughn. Julio he should. I'm expecting him to get a handful of snaps. Maybe he'll get 8 snaps like he saw.
10 snaps,
game. 10 snaps, 8 routes run,
1 target.
Yeah, so you can hope that it's a touchdown. Basically, is what you're hoping for with Julio. Yeah. Oh, he said kickoff. Well, Mike, you know that's irrelevant. I don't care when the kickoff is, Mike. All right. Do we have any other questions? Fading defense tonight, says Apollo. Yeah, I mean, these are good offenses. They're good defenses too, but like the offenses are great. So good luck. Good luck to you.
What was the last game week 9? I don't have it up. I think it was like 28-23 or something like that. So I mean, close to 50 or 51 points. So
yeah,
not bad. And I want to say didn't they sack Dak like 5 times in that game?
Have they played already this year? I can't even remember.
Yeah, they played in week 9.
They just played. I do not remember.
Week 9. We're in week 14.
These seasons go so long that I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'm sure I watched the game, or at least like was tracking it closely, and I do not.
It was a Sunday afternoon game. It wasn't prime time. They got Dak Prescott. They sacked him 5 times in that game, but he ended up with 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. So,
JS asks, fade CD. Fade at your own risk. I am definitely not fading CD. He is, I believe, my highest exposed player. CD he's the Eagles secondary has been pretty bad. One of the few like weak spots in this game as far as defense goes, like relative to like the running backs. We look at as far as quarterbacks go over the past 5 weeks. The Eagles defense has given up the most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. So just a great spot, really tough to fade, and to wide receivers also. So really tough to fade CD. Looks like a great spot for CD. Obviously, it's a one game. Anything can happen in one game. Would we be that shocked if CD finishes with 6 for 60 yards and no touchdown? Not really.
Well,
I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Today got hurt. Lamar Chase had 29 yards. I had one of those bonus pick'em site things for 29 and a half, and he had 29 effing yards. So otherwise I would have had some fun over there. And then who was the other one? Keenan Allen did not do well today. So, there are some.
His quarterback got hurt. So a lot of it is just injury related, but injuries happen. This is the NFL. Injuries happen all the damn time. Wouldn't be that shocking. All right, so we have we are coming up upon lock. So get your lineups in if you haven't already done so. You probably have a few seconds left. EMac, any final words?
No, I think that's it. Thank you everybody for coming to the show. Hit the like button. Monday Mayhem tomorrow. It's a Monday night doubleheader. Both games going simultaneously at I think it's 8 or 8:15 is the kickoff. That is on ABC and ESPN. Of course, we'll have a live before lock for that show, but a little less on the showdowns, a little more on the 2-game slates. I did not look, but I'm guessing what DK probably has a millionaire.
I actually don't know if they. I know that the showdowns were not that large. I think one of them was 100,000 at first. The other was
it's because they're both at the same time.
Yeah, I know. Let me see. Yeah, they have. It's not loading, of course. I'm trying to just load my DraftKings quickly to look at what the contest is. I believe it's probably $1 million, but I'm not 100%. It might be 500,000.
It is 500,000 to first.
Okay, so we got a 500,000 to first.
There you go. So I'll play one lineup into that, and then I'll go out to dinner and not look at anything. But then we'll be at our friends, and there I know the husband. They live in Washington State, so no DFS, no gambling.
Oh no.
So, but they have a place in Florida here as well. So we tend to go back and forth for dinners and stuff, but they're having us come over for chili, and I know he's going to want to watch the football and all that, but it's like, dude, if I come over and watch, then we got a 45-minute drive to get to your place. I can't play any games.
Yeah, so, true.
Like, oh, do you have this guy? Do you have that guy? It's like, no, because I didn't play because I'm over here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we can do it earlier, EMac. You can do it earlier in the day, maybe.
It's just one lineup.
Yeah,
that's all
it was one lineup, but it'll be fine.
Bullet.
All right. Final words, EMac.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Have fun tonight, everybody. Enjoy basketball.
Enjoy the
starts
game
again tomorrow.
Good luck in your best ball and in your season long stuff. Just this is one of the final 3 games of the regular season for most of it. So good luck to everybody, and of course, good luck in DFS as well. Let's take down. Let's win some money. All right. Enjoy. Good night.